Welcome to the Effortless Swimming Podcast. I'm excited today to have a very special guest on. It's Kyle Chalmers. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me on, mate. I appreciate your time.
Well, you've been someone who I've featured in some of our YouTube videos over the years, just looking at your technique and showing what a great example of good freestyle technique looks like. And as an Australian, I've really enjoyed watching you compete, and especially your last 25, 50 meters in some of your races. It's just spectacular to watch and exciting because you've got probably one of the best back ends in the 100 freestyle that I've seen, and I just love watching you come home, especially in those relays. So it's an honor to have you on the podcast, and I want to dig into some things around technique in your training and a number of other things. So the first thing I'd like to start with is that race in 2016, your gold medal at the Olympic Games. I can't believe you're only 18 at the time. Like, how did your life change after that gold medal?
Yeah, 18. So I think I was only just turned 18 as well. I was looking the other day, Swim did a stats, and it was kind of the youngest, male athletes to win an individual Olympic gold medal in the past however many years. And I think over the last 9 Olympics, there's only been Thorpe and I that have managed to do it as teenagers. So it was a very kind of special thing for me. I probably didn't know how special it was until I got home to Australia. For me, I went away to the Olympic Games I think I'd probably just turned 18, like I said. Didn't know a whole lot about swimming. I wanted to be an Aussie rules footballer. I'd kind of sacrificed that to be a swimmer in that lead up to the Olympic Games. Went over there as kind of the shadow of Cam McAvoy. He was the man that everyone was expecting to win, and he was my teammate and training partner at the time. I was training with his coach, Richard Scarce, at the Olympics because my coach wasn't there. He was my roommate. So for me, I didn't have really any pressure or expectation on myself. So I was able to kind of just go there, fly under the radar, have a bit of fun. There was no sort of media attention on me. I didn't know any of the guys in the marshalling room, probably other than Nathan Adrian, because I'd seen him win in 2012. But other than that, they were just other guys. So for me, it was just like doing another competition, and probably that transition that I'd been on from a very young age, from that state level to national age to national open to Australian junior teams to the World Championships long course in 2015 as a relay swimmer to then in Rio being an individual 100 freestyler. So I'd never raced individually. And yeah, that 47.5 seconds definitely changed my life very drastically. I kind of went away a nobody and kind of came back a national hero that, everyone was kind of stopping me for photos and signatures, and I was going to restaurants and getting free food, or, flying overseas for photo shoots, being in the back of a car on AFL Grand Final day. Like, it was just a very overwhelming, probably experience. Like, you probably can't really teach anyone how to prepare. You can't prepare someone for that, really. It's something you kind of have to go through yourself. And it was, definitely a challenge at different parts, but an experience that I absolutely loved, and probably an experience that I desperately want to do again. And that's probably what keeps me motivated and keeping me in the sport.
Did you speak to anyone after that, someone like Ian Thorpe, who had been through a similar sort of situation, for looking for advice or for tips on how to handle that kind of attention?
Definitely, yeah. Thorpe was one that I had a little bit to do with. He gave me a bit of advice here and there, but again, like, it's just such a different world to when Thorpe won his gold medals back in 2000, 2004, because of probably social media. Like, anyone can contact you, anyone can have their say, and so it's definitely different generations. But I definitely appreciated having someone like Thorpe on my side that kind of gave me that feedback. And Hackey was one, like Grant Hackett, I went to 2015 World Champs with. He was another one that I was able to kind of speak to. And, most of the older guys that have kind of been through it, I've had a fair bit to do with now. And, Chris Feidler, Michael Klim, are guys that I've relied on quite a lot through the period of swimming. I know that I'm definitely going to be missing names out, but those guys were crucial for me. Like Adelaide, there hasn't been too many Olympic gold medalists come out of Adelaide, especially in swimming, and there's only been 3 100 freestyle Olympic champions from Australia. So there's very few people that you can kind of rely on to, I guess, for insights on how that experience is. So it was definitely challenging as an 18-year-old, that's for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine. And in terms of the social media, have you got any rules that you set yourself to, uh, like, especially coming around competition time? Are there rules that you set yourself to not look at it for certain times or in competition? Because I can imagine that would be very hard to do, but an
Mm.
important thing to consider, especially around those key races that you're training for.
I think previously, like when I was younger, I definitely used to kind of delete the apps or log myself out of the apps and not access them during competitions. But for me now, I enjoy being able to stay connected with my friends and family. I use social media to be able to do that. So I find that hugely important, that no matter where I am in the world, I'm able to kind of connect with the people I love most and probably just talk about normal things. I think, a lot of my mates know me as just Kyle Chalmers, the dude they grew up with, and they don't talk about swimming or necessarily care about results either. So I can kind of continue that while I'm away, which is always nice. And I also, as I've got older, have appreciated reading comments, whether it's necessary, like good or bad. I think it kind of motivates me at times. Like I love reading through the swam comments on how I'm swimming or whatnot, because I draw motivation from what these kind of people that have no idea think. So for me, yeah, my strategy hasn't changed all that much. I kind of use it and access it, and it doesn't cause me too much stress anymore. As a kid, definitely it used to. I kind of used to read into those articles of where they were predicting I'd go, or what time was predicted to go, or just anyone and everyone kind of reaching out, wishing me luck and stuff. But now I enjoy it. I think I'm a lot more relaxed. I'm a bit older. I'm a bit more kind of content and know my strategies and how I need to race, and it's a beneficial thing probably.
I think of some of the YouTube comments that I've got over the years just from putting out content for the last 10 years. And I was similar at the start, like, used to affect me. And then I have to kind of go through, well, do they have a point here? Is there something that I could learn from it? And now I just kind of look at them and go, like, all right, that's completely fine. You say what you want to say. Like, an example is I put a video up of Dan Smith, like, just doing an easy, like, 100 freestyle. And
Yeah,
there's people saying he's breathing every two. Like, this guy's no good. Like, what are you
yeah,
talking about? People, elite swimmers breathe every two. Like, they've got something in their mind, like, you must breathe every three.
yeah.
Like,
It's weird.
okay, it's really weird. So I think you get that maturity, and you just sort of, what's right. You know what you're capable of, and what you're doing, and it's just eventually becomes water off a duck's back for the most part. But it comes with that
Yeah, definitely.
maturity, I think.
I think you just got to be confident in what you're doing and trust what you're doing. Like I spend 50 hours a week probably in and around the pool training, working on my stroke, kind of doing what I need to do to be the best. So I've kind of refined and know exactly what works for me and what's going to help me get to the end of the wall as fast as I can. And, these people that think they're there, some people that think they're experts and want to bring you down or comment, I'd love to probably see them swim at times. It'd be quite funny to see that. But like with the breathing twos, like I breathe twos my whole entire 100, or even if I do a 50 freestyle, like I broke the Australian record in the 50 freestyle breathing twos. So yeah, definitely just is dependent on who the person is, I think, and your stroke.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And you're up in Darwin at the moment on a training camp, and just before the call, you're saying you've got two coaches up there for skill acquisition that are doing underwater filming and just analysing your starts, your turns, your finishes, your stroke, and really just giving all the swimmers up there a lot of feedback. Can you talk a bit about how much of that you've done over your career and how you like to use it, and that how you have improved with that kind of feedback on a consistent basis?
Yeah, feedback for me has been probably the biggest aspect of my swimming career. I think I'm, naturally pretty strong and fast through the water and powerful, but being able to actually use that to my advantage by, putting, I don't like the feedback that they're giving me into place to swim faster and be more efficient is what's been, the driving force to me actually improving over the years. So I think, I started working with skill acquisition probably early as 2015 with underwater cameras and GoPros. And as we've kind of progressed and I've had a bit of success, I think the funding into swimming in South Australia has probably gone a little bit more. So we've been able to acquire probably better equipment and gain that little bit more knowledge from, me racing against other guys around the world, or things that I've done to be able to improve myself. But, just that constant feedback of when I'm in the water, just videoing every single turn. We have the the big screen in the pool is kind of a live stream of our turns. It's on a 50-second delay, so we're able to look straight up on the screen and see the turn that we just did, or occasionally we'll swap it to the other end to see the finishes that we're doing. And then I have a skills coach there that's able to give me feedback straight away with, how my feet are hitting the wall, how I'm pushing off the wall, my fly kicks, my breakout, whatever it might be that I'm working on in that period of time, which I find super beneficial. And I'm a visual learner, so I have to actually be able to see what they're talking about and then try to put that into practice. So I know that, if it's something on my turn, I kind of have to do it. They have to show me what I'm doing wrong, and then I have to get straight back in the pool to do it, to be able to learn that skill and acquire it. But I know that I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without my skills. I used to think back in 2016 or early days, I probably used to win races by being one of the fitter swimmers in terms of my back end. But if you watch my skills from probably Rio, it's probably some of the worst skills you'd kind of see. Like my turn's probably 2 to 3 fly kicks, and then my head comes straight out of the water on my breakout, and my finish was terrible. I remember in that race thinking I'd lost the race just on my finish. So over the years, I've got better and better at my skills, and I have to do that if I'm going to match the likes of Caleb Dressel. In the 100 freestyle, his skills are amazing. His dive's incredible, and I've learned a lot from watching his dive or his turns and his underwater fly kicks and breakouts, and then trying to put that into practice on myself. And I think that's what's allowed me to get better.
And have you found that what you've learned from those skill acquisition coaches with how they analyze it, how they go about teaching you, have you done much work with younger kids in sort of clinics or just in squads where you've been able to take that stuff on board and then pass it on to those younger kids who are up and coming?
Yeah, definitely. Like an example of that this year, probably being on the national event camp on the Gold Coast, we split up into our strokes. So I was with the 100 freestyle guys, and we've got a couple of young guys coming up through there, like Flynn Southam and Dylan Andrea, that are both really keen to learn and both looking to me for advice. And I think, we did a morning where it was just kind of based around turns, and I'm kind of almost giving more advice to them than what the actual skill act that we had there was giving to them, because I think I've been learning, freestyle turns for such a long period of time. I do them however many hundreds of times a day, probably, that I'm able to kind of look at their turns, see exactly what they're doing wrong, and then give them the advice, which I found really cool. And they were both super eager to learn and both super keen to be able to then put that into place so quickly. And they're going to be important parts of my relay next year. So the faster that they can turn and the faster they can swim, the better. But yeah, definitely the kind of skills that I've learned from being coached by skill acts for such a long period of time has allowed me to probably retain that information to then coach the next generation. And I've done a few swim clinics where I've been able to do that. And but it's an area that I definitely love doing, is helping the younger kids that are coming through, because my time in swimming is probably coming to an end a little bit. Like I'm at the pointy end of my career, whereas these guys are starting up. And if I can help them kind of take over from where I'm at, it's just going to be more beneficial for Australia really moving forward.
Yeah. When I was just doing some research for the podcast, I looked up how old's Kyle at the moment, like 25. And I was like, man, you come across as so much more mature than that. And I think you have for a very long time. What do you put that maturity down to? Is this something that you feel like you developed early with maybe the level of sport that you were competing in with?
16-year-old just about to turn 17. And I kind of got thrown onto a team with, I didn't know anyone at all, any of the swimmers. I didn't know any of the staff or coaches. And I had to go away for 3 to 4 weeks with these guys that are, mid-20s to close to 30-year-old. Hacky was probably 35 or 36 at that age. And I kind of had to fit in. I had to talk to people. I had to kind of put myself out there and mature very quickly. Like I had to grow up very, very quickly to be able to have those kind of adult type relationships, or swim at a extremely high level internationally. And I couldn't probably be a kid as much as my mates were, or even having successes at quite a young age, winning an Olympic gold medal at 18, and then kind of having to deal with all the media and pressures and expectation that comes with that. But just everyone knowing who you are, not being able to kind of go out and make a fool of yourself and not have to worry about that. I'm always in the public eye, so I got to kind of be as mature as I possibly can, as pretty much every time I step out of the door almost. So yeah, I think I had to grow up very quickly just from probably the experiences I had, and just wanting to be a professional and wanting to be the best I possibly can, and learning from the older guys. I was kind of that generation where I loved the feedback from the older guys. If they were I had a training partner, Sally Hunter, who was a 2-time Olympian and, probably close to 30 by the time I started training with her. And, I was a 16, 17-year-old kid, so I'd be probably lazy on turns or push-offs or, joke around and take the piss a little bit of training, whereas she'd get into me about all that sort of stuff. And I loved that feedback a lot. So yeah, I think those just experiences has probably matured me quite quickly.
And coming towards the end of your career, do you feel like that's given you a bit more freedom to choose the path that you want to take? Like I've seen you up on the sunny coast training with a friend of mine, Ash Delaney, up with his squad there, and just sort of mixing things up a bit. Has it given you that freedom now that you are one of the older ones and you've got the success that you've got? Like has that opened up options for you and have more choice with what you can do?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, over the last couple of years, I've been spending a little bit of time up on the coast with, Delaney's one of my best mates and like a brother to me, really. Like him and his wife, Taryn, and the 2 kids have been a very important part of my swimming career. I think they're, this time last year, or sorry, a little bit earlier, maybe like February last year through to April, I was semi-retired from swimming because I'd come back from my second shoulder operation and I was kind of just in constant pain, like with driving, sleeping, drinking, eating, whatever it was, whatever involved my shoulders. It was causing me quite a lot of pain. So for me, I kind of went, well, is this really worth it? Seeing physios every single day when I'm at the pool, just doing, snorkel, face down kick with my hands by my side for kilometers on end, doing a lot of running, just being in pain, that kind of made me question whether swimming was what I wanted to continue to do. Is it worth the pain? And I kind of took quite a lot of time away. I went back home to the country, did some work with my cousin. He's a boat mechanic, so kind of just stuffed around at the workshop with him, kind of went fishing, lived a pretty normal lifestyle, and then went to Josh Beaver's Bucks party in Melbourne, and he and Ash Delaney was there, and Ash is one of my best mates at that stage, and kind of went, come up to Sunny Coast, see the kids, see Taryn. You haven't seen where I'm living, and obviously I was pretty well unemployed at that stage, so I could kind of do whatever I wanted to do. So rolled up there, and he didn't put any pressure on me to kind of get in the pool, but just being in that environment made me want to get back in the pool. And just training with different people, like the kids are probably more so high school kids or semi-professional swimmers, so they had a lot more fun, and you're kind of joking around mid-session or mid-main set, which I really appreciated. And I kind of had to, I had to work a lot harder than to make sure I was beating all these kids all the time, because I'm a very competitive person and pride myself on winning. So I loved that, and now it's become an important part of my lifestyle. I think going up there for a couple of weeks when I feel like I need to decompress and probably de-stress a little bit, I go up there, spend a few weeks with the kids. It's just a different lifestyle, dropping the kids off to school in the morning, having your best mate around you all day, every day, kind of going to the pool with him, training, kind of coming back, watching South Park or whatever on TV, and then going back to the afternoon. It's just a good lifestyle. But I do think that, I know exactly what I need to do to be the best now. I've been around for a long time. I've been at the top of the world in the 100 freestyle on a couple of occasions. So I know exactly what I need to do in terms of diet, rest, recovery, what I need to do in and out of the pool, gym wise, to be the best. So I'm able to do things like go up to the sunny coast and spend a few weeks there. And I know that my coach trusts me to do that. But, Bish, my coach in Adelaide, is one of my very best mates, like a father figure, such an important role model for me, and someone that I've swum with since, about 2011, 2012. So I'll never leave him. I trust exactly what he says to me day in, day out. I know there's occasionally times where I might be like, oh, is this actually going to make me a better 100 freestyler? But I have so much trust, so much respect for him, and I love working under him. And, I feel like when I race, I represent, him and the whole Sassy team. It's a very special crew that we've created in Adelaide. And I'm very lucky to have them on my side, and kind of being able to have these amazing experiences, like come to Darwin on training camps and whatnot.
And you mentioned injuries before. Has there been any silver linings from the surgeries and the injuries that you've had?
Yeah, well, both of my shoulders are back up and firing pretty good at the moment, which is really nice. It's kind of my first time in 3 years where I'm able to be injury free for an extended period, do the work that everyone else is doing in my squad, race at all the competitions in the lead up to trials. Last year I gave myself 7 weeks preparation for trials, whereas this year I've been able to kind of train from January through till trials, which is really exciting for me. And both of my bursters have come out on my side. They shaved my AC joints down, fixed up my labrums, which has both been pretty good. I think at the end of my career, I'll have to have both of them reconstructed because I've got a bit of extra bone in both of my AC joints. It's called an osmochromiales. So it's kind of a bit of bone that never fused when I was a kid. So that's the thing that still causes me a bit of pain because it's just bone grinding on bone when I'm swimming. But it's definitely a whole lot more manageable than having, bursitis or a little bit of tears in subscapal labrums like I have previously. So, I think that's, making me very, very happy in and out of the pool. I've probably had the best season I've had just in terms of how much fun I'm having with it and enjoyment, and I'm back loving swimming. So who knows, my swimming career might be prolonged to Brisbane if I'm able to stay this happy and be injury free. And you definitely take it for granted, I think, being injury free. Like I think as a kid, you don't really understand how grueling injuries are, both physically but mentally and emotionally as well. It caused me so much, just hurt for a long time.
Yeah, it's one of those things where when you're in it, it's all you can think about and it's just constantly nagging at you. And then as soon as it's good, it's like you forget about it. You're just like, oh, back to normal life. But if you can have that, if you can be grateful for it and just recognize what it is like to actually be injury free, it's it just makes a world of difference. And has your training? So do you have to ease into the training in terms of the distance that you're doing? How do you have to change your training when you are leading into trials, for example, where you don't want to overdo it? So you're having to reduce your distance each week. What's it look like for you?
So this year it's kind of been easing back into it slightly, but the last 2 years I've had shoulder surgery in December, so I haven't been able to start back training for quite long periods of time, whereas this year I was able to get back in, January the 2nd with the rest of the guys, build right back into it. And I've even managed to get some weeks out where I've done 50 kilometers in the pool in a week, which is a massive amount for a 100 freestyler, but a massive amount for me when I haven't been able to do that sort of work in such a long period of time. But at the moment, I'm in my last hard block of training, so probably hitting close to 40, 45 Ks a week. And then we get back to Adelaide on the 25th of May, and we'll start a 2.5 week taper down into trials. So it'll be, definitely getting a bit lighter, freshening up and dropping the Ks down. I won't go down probably fully because I'll try and do that for World Championships. But I'll taper down to swim faster trials, make the team. That's the first box to tick every year, and then probably go back into a harder block again leading into World Champs. So for us, 2.5 weeks seems to be the key amount of time for me to get tapered, and it's just gradually dropping down. The first couple of days of taper might be 4.5 Ks, and then it will drop right down to 3 probably the week leading into it, and then probably 2, 1.5 it's the days before when we're in Melbourne ready to race.
I've heard you say you really enjoy the aerobic training. Can you talk a bit about what that looks like for you and why you do enjoy that? Because from what my experience, there's not many sprinters that enjoy the aerobic based training.
I'm a person that I've wired my brain to enjoy the stuff that I know that people shouldn't like, I think. I think aerobic swimming for me is so important, and that's why I've had such a good back end over my career. I probably train more so for the 200 freestyle and come down to the 100 freestyle than training for the 150. So for me, like the other night we did 8 300s on 330, one at lactate and a half, one where we're descending the hundreds and then descending that 300 by the eighth one's got to be pretty well a 300 max, but you got to make sure you're descending the hundreds through that. So those sort of sessions, that's my bread and butter and something I do probably, some form of that at least once a week, if not twice a week. And it's all just developing that back end and kind of dampening my anaerobic system, because I know that if my anaerobic system's too fast, then I swim slower. So I've got to be smart with how I train, and I've got to do the aerobic stuff, and I've got to do, IM stuff in training. I've got to do the short rest stuff, the stuff that people don't enjoy doing, but I know that it's just going to make me better in the pool. So yeah, I definitely have loved that stuff over the years. And this year I did a couple of 800 freestyles just to kind of put myself in uncomfortable positions, events that sprinters historically probably wouldn't do. But, like I said earlier, I am getting older and I've raced for a very long time. And I just kind of go through the motions when I'm rocking up at, New South Wales state championships or nationals these days. It's kind of like, oh yeah, it's just another race. I don't get as motivated as I used to for those sort of competitions. So putting myself in an uncomfortable position like the 800, I get all anxious and stressed, and it feels like an Olympic final really for me. So I definitely love doing that sort of stuff, and it's something that, I'll continue to do over these next few years, because I know that it's going to make my back end of my 100 freestyle better and make my total time better in it.
So the 8 300s, you're leaving on 3:30, and is that leaving on 3:30? Yeah. And this is in a 50-meter pool, so long course. What times are you hitting in those 8.3s? And obviously they're different pace, but what are you sort of averaging there?
When I'm swimming at lactate 1.5, I was about 3:15, and then down, I got down to about 3:03 or 3:04, I think, with about a 57 for my last 100. So I think that's pretty solid for a 100 freestyler. Obviously, some of the guys would go a whole lot faster. You watch, the guys like Sam Short and the 1,500 guys that we have trained, they're incredible, the times that they're able to hold for such long periods of time. But, I'm lucky to have a great training partner in Matt Temple that's kind of swimming alongside of me, going very similar times, and we kind of race each other that whole 2.5 Ks of swimming. We're kind of just pacing off each other. And then, as always, it's a sprint for that last 50 or last 100 in that case, to see and get their hand on the wheel first. And it's something that I've prided myself on.
Yeah, that's cool. And that aerobic work, when you get into the zone of it and you're actually just, not thinking about anything else, it's just looking to hold your pace and just make sure you're hitting your times. For me, it's just one of the best feelings, coming out of a session where you're working at those sort of intensities and you've got to hold your pace for such a long period of time. I'm similar. I just love that aerobic training. It's come out of it just feeling so much better than like a sprint session where I'm just wiped and it's like I need to refuel straight away. But those more aerobic ones, it's a little bit different.
Definitely, I'm glad we're wired the same, mate. Good man.
And for you, so is there any, say, unconventional beliefs or something that that you believe that is maybe different to your other competitors? Any sort of unconventional beliefs that you've got that you think, oh, maybe not everyone thinks this?
I probably just think with my work ethic and whatnot, I believe that I have to be the best person at training, whether it's a recovery session or a key main session. I love to pride myself on being the hardest worker in the pool, just because my goal is to be the best in the world. So I know my competitors are working pretty hard. So I think I'm wired probably different in that sense than some people. Probably some people take recovery a bit more seriously or whatnot, whereas I'm kind of go. Even throughout the days, I'm not a person that's able to sit still. So now on a Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, on my recovery afternoons, I'm labouring on a building site, just as a bit of work experience really, but just something to do and something that I know is that little bit extra that's going to hopefully benefit me in the pool, because I'm kind of physically, working but having fun while I'm doing it. So I think just probably wired to work as hard as I possibly can every time I enter the pool, and I pride myself on that. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head, but yeah, that's probably where I'm at.
It's when I saw you make a few posts about being on the building site, and a couple of months ago you were sort of playing footy as well, like doing those things outside of swimming. Obviously, you feel like that benefits you, because the other way to approach it is train and then just rest and sit on the couch and do nothing. But I think like that can really get in your head if you're just sitting around and doing nothing. Whereas if you're just keeping active, keeping busy, even though it might kind of go against what you think could be best, and just resting so you can train back up that afternoon for another session. Just keeping busy, I think, is actually a better approach for most people. What are your sort of feelings around that?
Yeah, massively. I think life balance is the key to success. There's been periods of my life that I've focused completely solely on swimming and probably burned myself out because my major focus has been swimming. And it's like you're always constantly living in your head. You kind of go home from swimming, you're thinking about training, you're thinking about the session you've just done or the session you have tonight, or kind of what you're fueling yourself with to get ready for the next session. And that's pretty unsustainable. You're not able to do that for long periods of time. So there is points of the year where I have to do that. At the moment is a period where I probably have to do that more so leading into trials and world championships. So I'm not burning myself out, because I'm a person, like I said, that will go all day every day and then just absolutely exhaust myself by the night time. But over this past period, especially this year, I've found, having that life balance, doing things that I enjoy, even reconnecting with a lot of my mates that I've probably not necessarily pushed aside, but haven't probably given the attention to them that they deserve over this last period while I've been focusing on swimming. I've reconnected with a lot of them, and that's just making me a lot happier in the pool, and making me more Kyle Chalmers the person again, rather than Kyle Chalmers the swimmer. And I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I think that's what the key is to why I'm swimming so fast this year and having so much fun in the pool, is just that I'm going fishing. I bought a fishing boat. I'm going fishing a couple of days a week probably. I'm out there working a couple of days a week. I'm hanging out with my mates and kind of having all my mates over to have a fire at my house. I love having the fire pit going with the footy on and cooking up some big steaks for everyone, and just being a lot more social and doing the things that I love doing. And that life balance is definitely the key to success, I think.
Yeah, I think surrounding yourself with especially old friends who, like, if you might not see them for 2 or 3 years, it's like you only saw each other yesterday, where you can just reconnect and you get straight back into it. And that surrounding yourself with people who are like that, and each other's life story, and then just having those activities like watching the footy, just those basic things, it counts for a lot, especially when swimming, certainly physical, but it's very much a mental sport with the amount of training that you've got to go through, how much time you can spend in your own head. So being able to just step out of that with the social side of things, I think is really important. And like, I remember when I finished high school, in between school and uni, there was probably 2 or 3 months there where I was pretty much just training. I knew I was going to go to uni, but I started to get sort of in my head a bit, like there's nothing outside of just training. And I thought, there needs to be more than this. I need something more than just swimming. And obviously uni came along, and then I wasn't sort of competing or training as much as I was. But yeah, when there was just swimming, life was sort of, it was hard. It was a lot harder mentally just to keep on top of things.
Definitely. And I see a whole heap of swimmers kind of go through that. And I think it's a big learning step that everyone kind of has to go through at some point themselves, and find that balance and what they're going to do away from the pool to keep themselves, in a good mental spot. And there's only so much advice you can give everyone, but you kind of see these young kids come through, they have their success, they go, yep, this is me, I'm focused in on swimming, I'm going to give everything to swimming. And you see them burn out pretty quick and struggle for a little bit and then find themselves again. And it's it's definitely something that I went through, and something that I still see a lot of people go through.
And now with what we do, we are heavily technique focused with our podcasts and content. And we run clinics around Australia where we do a lot of underwater filming and analysis. And so I'm sort of heavily technique driven, and majority of listeners of the podcast are adults who are doing triathlon, swimming, or open water swimming, and they just love to improve their technique. So for you, what are some of those key things that you're thinking about when you're training, and what does it feel like for you when you're swimming well?
Yeah. I think the key things for me at the moment is making sure that I'm rotating on both sides. Obviously, I breathe to my right side, so occasionally I won't then rotate back onto my left side as much as I need to. So while I'm training at the moment, and the key area is just kind of making sure I get that rotation, which is helping my shoulders as well, because otherwise I'm loading up probably the left shoulder a whole lot more than the right shoulder at times. So that's a key area for me. The other one's obviously my hip positioning, just keeping your hips quite still, which, to do that, you're strengthening your core and strengthening your back out of the pool, so that when you're in the pool, you're able to kind of keep that nice rigid hips in that good position. And then the other one, my kick may look like it's quite good when I'm swimming. I have quite a lot of splash going behind me. My kick is probably my weakest area of my swimming. So working on my kick, and that's probably not having too much knee bend. It's trying to keep my legs a lot straighter, and just those three areas are something that I'm working hard on at the moment to have good freestyle. And I know that when I am doing those to the best of my ability, I'm able to swim a whole lot faster. Like I'm rotating, evenly across my shoulders, which is probably lengthening me out a little bit. So I'm holding a bit better water. My kick's probably not as, taxing and hard if I'm keeping my legs straight. I'm kind of moving and my hips are sitting a little bit higher. So those are definitely things that I feel.
And in your, say, 100 freestyle, let's say for the 4x1 at the Melbourne short course champs a couple of months ago, like you came home so strong in that last 25. What's your thoughts on pacing? How do you try to pace like 100 freestyle?
For me, I just try to be consistent throughout the whole race. So obviously, you can jump in and burn all your energy quite quickly. But so for me, I've got to make sure that I'm telling myself to ease into the race a little bit. Like I've got to hold myself back on that first 25 a little bit. And then it's kind of building into that second 25, getting a nice turn, working that underwater, but again, not maxing straight off the turn again, because you don't want to burn that energy. It's all about being as consistent as you can, so you've got that energy to be able to burn in the last 15. And it's something that the way that I've always swum my 100 freestyle is kind of that way. And when I started probably doing that, it was almost a new way of swimming the 100 freestyle in a way. Like there wasn't too many people that were solely working on their back end. Whereas now, like that seems to be the way that people are swimming their 100 freestyle a whole lot more. Like you look at some of the guys' back ends from around the world nowadays, they're very, very impressive. And I like to think that I'm kind of the guy that's changed the way that people look at the 100 freestyle and how they swim it. So that's probably my thoughts behind it.
Especially coming out of that supersuit era where it was just like guns blazing from the start, and it was like just all sort of upper body. It's really evolved over the last sort of 15, 14 years now, but very different approach to the 100 freestyle compared to back then.
Definitely. And you still see a few guys, like Santo Condorelli or Vlad Morozov, or these guys that are 50 meter base that try to come up and do the 100, and they're always out pretty hard and kind of die off in that last 50. But yeah, it seems to be the guys that are able to do the better hundreds nowadays are guys that are also able to do a pretty solid 200 and swim. Yeah, the person that's kind of finishing the fastest is almost the winner of the race in most cases.
Are you changing your stroke from 50 to 100 and then from 100 to 200?
Probably 100 to 200, yes, but 50 to 100, no. So I don't do very many 50s long course at all. Like I did one this year, which is probably the first one I've done over the last few years. But for me, if I'm going to swim my best 50, I've got to make sure that I'm trying to think like I'm swimming 100. My best 50 freestyle, I think, is 22.07. My best first 50 for my 100 freestyle is 22.7. So you kind of take that feet into wall into account. That's about 0.6, 0.7 of a second. So I'm actually going out as fast as I possibly can swim at this point in my career. So my stroke tries to stay the same in terms of I'm breathing every 2 strokes. I'm trying to lengthen out as much as I can. Whereas the 200, obviously, you drop your stroke rate a little bit to swim that extra bit, that little bit further. But I think as I get a little bit older, I'm not doing as many 200s as I have done previously, and it's probably not as much of a focus as it has been either.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, I've really appreciated you being on the podcast, and also want to make note of Baden from Skillless who set this up. So you're on the Skillless platform. So anyone who's got some video of them swimming, you can send it through to Kyle on Skillless, and he'll analyze your stroke. And I didn't know how much analysis work you'd done with professionals over the years. But I think that's really exciting, because there's so much that you can get from it, and having that experience and now being able to do it yourself and give that feedback through Skillless is fantastic. And what we've done for the last probably 7-8 years at clinics is a lot of that underwater filming and analysis with swimmers who are more around like the 1:30 to 2 minute mark per 100. So those people who learned to swim as an adult, and just that experience of working with those people and doing it day in, day out. It's like get a really good idea of what people are doing, what they need to do to change, and hopefully see 5, 10, 15 seconds improvement per 100 just by getting that experience. And being able to do that yourself and then put that into practice in training is such a good way to learn what's required for other people. So that's really great that you're on the Skillless platform. We also had Ryan Murphy, who's a good friend of yours, on. He was on 2 weeks ago, and he's also on Skillless too. So what made you sort of jump on board with Skillless? What did you like about that kind of platform and opportunity?
Yeah, I think for me, I do love my sport. I love kind of seeing people get better, especially kind of the younger generation that are coming through. If I can have a positive impact on them and kind of give them a little bit of advice and tips, it's always beneficial. But so I think it's a great opportunity for me to better my sport, help people reach their goals, help people with their freestyle technique or butterfly technique. I probably don't know a whole lot about breaststroke or backstroke, but those two are that I think that I've spent a very major part of my life and major part of my days every day is kind of perfecting my skills. If I'm able to pass that advice on to the other swimmers who are eager to learn and keen to learn from me, I think it's a great opportunity. So I'm really excited for people to interact with people on Skillless, have people send their videos through and ask for advice and ask for technique. I really love people when people are able to, ask for that. I think it's something that doesn't happen too much with the new generation that's coming through, they don't want to ask for advice or help as much as what, I know that I did when I was definitely growing up. Now it's kind of seen as a bit of a, if you're to give advice, it's people get offended sometimes by that. So, people that are actually actively reaching out to get better at swimming and whatnot, I appreciate. And I, like I said, really look forward to being able to interact with that. And obviously Brian Murphy's a great mate of mine and he's on there and he kind of talked me into it. So I'm definitely looking forward to having the opportunity to meet some new people in swimming, some like-minded people that just want to be better at the sport. And hopefully I'm able to offer some great advice and help people swim faster and reach their goal in the pool.
Yeah, the thing I like about it too is like there's that Cameo app where it's like you can get someone to say like, happy birthday to your mate or something. It's like, well, that's great, but it's not helpful for swimmers. It's like if you can send your video and actually get feedback from someone like yourself, you can get so much more. It's so much more valuable than someone just saying g'day. So I think it's going to be a really big thing over the next couple of years. Kyle, thank you so much for being on the podcast. All the best for World Champs trials in about a month's time, and look forward to watching your journey over the next couple of years and seeing if you stick around with swimming for longer, how the shoulders hold up and all of that. So it's been great having you on the podcast. Thanks very much.
No worries. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.